Hi, my name is Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Dice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by
Mark. Dean. Steve.
We've just finished playing Barrage, which is a heavy Euro. Thematically, it's very nice. You have droplets of rain that rain on top of the mountains here, and at various points in the game, the rain kind of filters down through the lakes and the streams you can see, and the objective of the game for us, as the players, is to try and build these dams. It's a bit difficult telling apart the different components because different colours have different sort of shaped things, but essentially stacked things are dams. Okay, so you can see people have built dams here to try and stop the water. You then have these kind of cylinder type things which are the conduits, and they feed the water through the various coloured pipes to the power stations. Power stations look slightly different, but that was white power stations like that, those are blacks, those are greens. So for example, we had Dean, you were going, oh, we can go in here, can't we? Yeah, so these two droplets here are held behind this dam of height 2. If the dam was only height 1, one of them would flow over and would kind of carry on going down the mountainside and get stopped in this dam here. But in this case, I've got a dam of height 2, so I can feed the water from the dam through the conduit down a particular pipe to, and I would need to have a power station. Yes, I have a power station here, these were mine. So you need a kind of connected set of 3, and when you can do that, then you can run the water through the power station, generate electricity, and electricity moves you up on this. Each round you're trying to generate as much power as you can, and at the end of every round you're scoring points. Now, how do you do all of that? Essentially, it's a big worker placement game. You have a big pile of workers, and there's lots of different actions here. Probably the most important one is this one, where you put some workers on here and you're taking an action to kind of run the water through. So in this case, I would take my 2 water, it would run through down to the power station, and then I get the appropriate amount of power, which is that much power for every water droplet. So I get 10 power, which would move my pink thing 10 up the track. One of the reasons you're trying to get high up on this track is because whoever's highest at the end of every round is going to sort of score some points, but also there are some of these scoring things, if we could just get a couple more out. So to start with, we were getting points for having built conduits, then we would get points for having built the higher stages on the dams. So you're trying to get up to score them, because if you don't get high enough, you can't score as many points for these things. So you want the power to score the things for what you've built. How do you build the things? Well, you have a kind of player board here, and you put your workers on these spots to build the various things. And there's a range of different costs. So the conduits, the power stations, the bases of the dams, and the extra bits on the dams. And you can see to build in higher places, like up in the mountains, is more expensive. This costs 5 of the little brown things, as opposed to only 3 if you build in the lowlands. So you have a bunch of resources, and when you want to build something, if I just spit some of these out a second, I'll show you how this works. So let's say I've got some brown guys and I want to build a dam, then you take the dam building section here and you plonk it in here with the appropriate number of resources. There's kind of 2 types of building things, the grey ones and the brown ones, and then also potentially need money for things. So that would let me build one of my dams. And depending on where I build it, so if I paid 4, that would go in the middle area. So I could maybe put it here on a dam spot. But after you've placed it, it then spins around. So you're not spending your resources, but they kind of get locked up in this wheel. Each time you build, it moves around. And one of the action spots here lets you move it around. The little spanner thing lets it move it around a bit more. But when it comes around to the end here, it spits out all the stuff. And then you have these resources available to use to build other things. So that's quite nice. That's how you're building all the various things that go onto the board. Contracts are quite important. You can go to this spot here to try and get a contract. So you would just take one of these things, and then when you next generate power by running the water through your power station, as long as you make this much power, you're going to get this amount of stuff. So that's extra money and adds extra water on top of the mountains. So the contracts are very important. A couple of other things then. You can actually manually add water with this action here onto the top of the mountain. At the start of each round, you can see the different numbers here. That shows you how much water is being added on the mountains. Effectively, it's raining up there. And then at the end of each round, all of that water kind of trickles through and stops at the appropriate dam. So yeah, if this 3 were to go down, 1 would get stopped here because it's a height of 1, then it carries on going, or it would flow over that one, and the remaining 2 would get stopped here because it's a height of 2. So it's very nice the way the water moves down there. You can try and get more of these resources with these spaces here. And there's a lot of spaces here. You have a fixed number of workers, so you can never get any more workers in the game. You have quite a lot of them, so a lot of options there. The game is played over a number of rounds. There's some end game scoring which varies a little bit depending on, in this case we were trying to build on certain spots here. Some of them you have to pay extra money for. So you're aiming for some endgame things there. But more or less that's it. It's quite mean in the sense that if you build a dam above somebody, like Steve had built a lot of dams here to stop the water, but then Dean came along and built the dam here, which means the water's going to stop here, and he can potentially funnel it away from Steve's route here. So there's a lot to think about when placing, but essentially we play this over 5 rounds and then most points wins. What do we think?
It's really hard to say what to think about it. It's brutal. It's incredibly unforgiving. You can make big mistakes early on that really hurt you. There's a lot of variability in it because in setup and in scoring orders, there can certainly be a lot of interaction with players because you're trying to work out where you can take advantage of somebody else's work and vice versa. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. Certainly to teach, to play, it takes a lot out of you. I think it's very good. I think if you like something like Brass or Food Chain Magnate, I think you'll like this sort of game. It's because of the amount that you're looking at what the players are doing physically on the board, like those games. It does remind me of that. Very much reminds me, I think I've said before, of in Food Chain Magnate when you do a marketing campaign and you suddenly flip the things on its head. You can do that if you are mean enough to do it, and you're either going to know if you like or dislike that sort of level of meanness, because this isn't a nice game to people. This is a game where you can really do somebody in with the right sort of moves.
Dean?
It's one of those strange games. It's one of the few Euros I've played where you get the rule explanation, you look at the board and you go, I have got no idea what I am supposed to do in this first turn. That's unusual. You've normally got a bit of an idea, or your special powers give you a bit of an idea. This one, it's not clear at all what you want to do. The second playing of this game, you will obviously be much better at it. It can be vicious. The problem is that if you're going to be vicious, you have to build further up the board. To build further up the board is more expensive. It may not be the best thing for you to do. But like any worker placement, most of the flow and what you're doing comes from this flow of water down, and there are only so many places where you can actually do the flow of water, so there's a bit of a fight for getting the water in the right place and being early enough. I really like it. I have the feeling it's one of those games where if you played it nasty, you'd be tipping the table over at some stage. Played the way we play it, which was basically everybody playing to optimise their own score rather than minimise somebody else's. It's a really nice game, but it's a brain burner.
Steve?
I'd echo Dean. Pretty much every Euro game I play with people and someone's explaining the rules. Towards the end of the rules, I'm half listening and half planning my first turn. In this case, I'm like, I ain't got a clue. I was with Dean. We hadn't played before. Mark and Jonathan had played 4 out of 5 rounds or something in Essen. And I just basically said, I don't know what to do. Jonathan, can you go first? At least by the time it gets to me, I'll know what to do. So Jonathan had a slow turn, and Mark ummed and ahed and went, and Dean goes, what's this? Asked lots of questions and went. And then I go, right, how do you get water here? So if Dean's done this, what would I need to capitalise off that? But you guys are all going to beat me to that. And I was asking loads of questions because until they put a bit out, I hadn't got a clue what to do. The power conduit, so you basically need those 3 things. You need a dam or a neutral dam. You need a power generator, but the power conduit can be anyone's. So if you can use someone else's power conduit to send it to your power plant, that's brilliant, which means I think they get a bit of points and a bit of money. So my first move was like, I don't think I'm going to beat you to the water, I'm going last, I'm just going to put a power conduit down. And it didn't work. Okay, and then Dean put a power plant in the middle of the board, and he didn't use it the whole game because things circumnavigate themselves around them. People are actually, that's not the way, the path that was going to go down. The top of the mountain is more powerful. It's more expensive. It generates you more power when you push the water through it. So there's less uncertainty. So obviously, if you go near the top of the mountain, you know the water's coming to you first, and then you can kind of decide where it's going off. And so I did quite well in this game because I kind of took one of the 4 channels to myself, built lots of stuff there. People didn't fight me for it. If they did, I would have been done in because that's where all my stuff was. If someone like they said, Dean had put a bit of a higher dam at the top and was able to siphon it away, I would have just been absolutely done in. In terms of how you score points, generating power doesn't directly score you points. It's all to do with the little bonus markers on that top track. So the first turn, I built a dam because we were scoring for dams, and then I didn't generate enough power to get to the point where I could score it. Okay, fine. Second time, I built my dam higher because we were scoring points for that. And I didn't even move my power marker. I even lost points because I didn't move far enough. I'm like, oh, whatever. So then I just focused, rather than on trying to hit what they're scoring, I just tried to generate as much power, making sure that I was moving up the tracks, and hopefully I was picking up the points, second hand, rather than trying to build what they were asking. I was just trying to generate the most power, because power doesn't directly score you points, but all the stuff that you do to get that power will do that. It is potentially mean. I don't think we played it in a mean spirit. I don't think anyone actively tried to do someone else in. There wasn't like a free thing. I got a free dam, put it in front of Dean because he was winning at the time. He built one in front of me right in the end just in case it did me in. But generally, if you've got that group where you're trying to do the best for yourself, you won't find it that mean, I don't think. But it's probably the game I've known the least what to do from the start in any game I've ever played.
Rating?
I haven't got a clue. 7.
Okay, Dean?
On first playing 7, I have the feeling it'll get into 8, 8.5 on a second play, but on the first playing 7, I really like the way it uses the theme and the flow and everything works, and it develops throughout the game, so at least a 7.
Okay. Mark?
On first play, I hated this game, but it's the game I probably thought about most since playing, so bought it, if you know what I mean. So I would give it, based on that, 8 currently.
Okay. I really like it. It is a massive brain burner. I love how thematic it is, though. The water, all the flowing in the channels and everything, it just makes sense. If too much water flows down the mountain, it goes over the top of the dam and will go down to the next town. After the factories, like the power stations, have used the water, it flows through the power station. So if you build a dam below somebody's power station, then you can sort of use their water after they've used it and make more power that way. So there's lots of really interesting strategy there. Building is very, very difficult to get your head around, because not only does it matter where you're building in terms of where are all the routes, where's the water going to flow, where are other people building, because you're fighting for spots, but also because the little wheel that ties up all of your resources, that makes it very hard. It's like, okay, I've got enough to build something to start with, and you build a couple of things, the wheel moves around a couple of spots, and then on your next round you're like, well, I haven't got any more resources. They're all in the wheel. How do I get them out of the wheel? And you can get the spanners to try and get them round into the wheel. But it still makes it very difficult then. So it can be very AP prone. Yeah, we had a lot of turns where people looking at the ball going, I need to build something, I don't know where to build it, and it's like they're umming and ahhing for a long time. So bear that in mind, super AP prone. Having said that, I've really enjoyed every game I've played. I haven't done very well, but I really enjoy it. I love the thought process, love how thematic it is. I think it's a fantastic game. I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Alright, thanks for watching. That was Barrage.